Thom Hartmann here on the best of the rest of science and green news. You need to know this. Grassroots efforts have paid off for the Atlantic coast. The Obama administration has reversed course on offshore drilling in that region. Back in 2008, Congress lifted the ban on offshore drilling in the Atlantic, and just a short time later, the Obama administration announced that they'd open up that region to offshore drilling. But that decision sparked countless protests, numerous environmental actions, and more than 1 million public comments on drilling in the region. Thankfully, last week, the president responded to the people and removed plans for oil drilling from his 5-year proposal on ocean energy development. That's what happens when Americans stand together and fight for what they believe in, and that's the benefit of having a president who actually listens to the American people. In a call with reporters last week, Sally Jewell, the Secretary of the Interior, said, quote, "We certainly have heard from coastal communities generally about their opposition," end quote. And local officials along the coast celebrated the announcement as well. Frank Knapp, president of the South Carolina Small Business Chamber of Commerce, said, quote, "Obviously, this is the right decision, and obviously it was a decision that arrived because of all the concern," end quote. Rather than threatening the local ocean-based economies, this decision will protect industries like tourism and fishing, which provide up to a quarter of the jobs in some coastal areas. Perhaps equally important, this decision is proof that small, local grassroots movements can truly have a profound effect on our entire nation. Although it may not always feel like it, we the people really can shape the policy of our country by standing together and demanding that we be heard. That's great news for the communities and animal life along the Atlantic coast, and it's great news for the brave men and women fighting for change all over our nation. Just because the plastic products you buy say BPA-free, that doesn't necessarily mean they're free from danger. According to a recent article over at alternate.org, the BPA alternative, known as BPS, interferes with the endocrine system in virtually the exact same way as BPA. That chemical is used in dozens of products that most Americans use every day, but it has been banned in baby bottles and other plastic items for infants and children. Because of widespread safety concerns, many companies have voluntarily removed BPA from other plastic items like food containers and water bottles, but the replacement may be exposing us to the same harmful effects. Recent studies have found that BPS is hormonally active, just like BPA, which means that it's most likely increasing our risks for obesity, cancer, and other neurological disorders, just like the original chemical. Far too often in this country, we only find out about major health risks after the public has been exposed. Yet again, the regulatory agencies should be protecting us, wind up protecting corporate profits instead. Many of us have known for years that good climate science is good business, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has finally confirmed that obvious point. According to a recent study published by the OECD, countries that enact strong environmental policies remain just as competitive as the more polluting nations. Despite years of being told that strict environmental regulations kill jobs, the actual data shows that efficiency and innovation allow industries to balance it all out. Researchers analyzed data from industries impacted by the Montreal Protocol, like refrigerator manufacturers, and how they survived the strict ozone regulations. At the time the regulations were enacted, refrigerator companies warned of job losses and closing factories. But the industry found a way to adapt, implement the new standards, and helped care for our planet. The OECD Chief Economist Catherine L. Mann issued a statement about the study saying, quote, "Governments should stop working on the assumption that tighter regulations will hurt their export share and focus on the edge they can get from innovation. Fact is, good science is good business, and we can't let these myths stop us from solving the climate crisis." Although you may see it on a menu in your local grocery store, Atlantic salmon is basically extinct. What you're eating or buying is actually farmed salmon, which is hatched using genetic stock. And that genetic stock lacks that natural genetic variation found in wild fish. To make matters worse, efforts to help the wild species recover from overfishing have only driven them closer to the brink of extinction. To help the wild fish, states have developed restocking programs which release farmed fish into the water to increase the population. However, by continuing to catch and eat the wild fish, those programs have essentially just swapped out genetically diverse species with genetically diluted farmed replacements. This salmon swap out has resulted in 99.5% of all native salmon disappearing from the wild. And the farmed fish lack the natural resistance to many parasites and diseases. There isn't much we can do to bring back the wild salmon species that have been lost, So we better get to work protecting the ones we have left. And finally, the state of Oregon is standing up the fossil fuel industry. Governor Kate Brown just enacted legislation mandating that all utility companies in her state provide half of their electricity from renewable sources by 2040. And she put an expiration date on Oregon's use of dirty coal. That historic legislation requires Oregon to eradicate the use of coal for making electricity within 2 decades. And it makes the Beaver State the first in our nation to end the era of coal power plants. In a statement about the new legislation, Governor Brown said, quote, "Now Oregon will be less reliant on fossil fuels and shift our focus to clean energy." That's what happens when state governments listen to their constituents and decide to put people and our planet ahead of fossil fuel industry profits. Great work, Oregon. And that's the way it is for the week of March 21st, 2016. I'm Thom Hartmann on Science and Green News.